If betrayal had a face, it would wear the warmest smile. The kind that leans in close with red lipstick and secrets, hugs you like home, and then sticks the knife in slow, so slow, you almost thank her for it. That face belonged to Ava. We met in college over a blueberry muffin. It was the last one in the case and we both reached for it. She laughed first. Tell you what, split it, and I'll owe you a coffee. That was Ava. Charming, magnetic, and just reckless enough to seem exciting. I liked her instantly. She became the person I called when I failed my first econ exam, when I got my first promotion, when I found out I was pregnant, and then, 2 days later, found out I wasn't. Ava was there, like clockwork. A sister, without the blood. A mirror that always knew how to flatter you. And when I married Daniel, she was my maid of honor. She sobbed during her toast, voice trembling as she talked about how we were soulmates. Not her and me. Not Daniel and me, but all three of us, a perfect triangle of loyalty and love. It sounds laughable now. Back then, I believed it. To the world, Daniel and I were that couple. The ones who held hands at dinner, who exchanged glances from across the room, who hosted holiday parties with matching sweaters and Pinterest-perfect cheese boards. And Ava was always there, on the guest list in the photos by my side. They say, betrayal starts with a moment. A slip. A look held too long. But I think it starts even earlier, quietly beneath the surface. Like mold behind wallpaper. I started noticing little things. Ava would text Daniel about wine pairings and dog breeds. She joked about how she and Daniel liked the same movies, the weird ones, the ones I'd never sit through. One night, I saw her name light up his phone at midnight. He said it was about my surprise birthday trip. I never got a trip, but I told myself I was imagining things. Paranoia, after all, is the quickest way to poison a marriage. And Ava? She loved me. She'd proved that, hadn't she? Until the day the iPad betrayed them both. Daniel had left it on the kitchen counter, screen still lit. A message popped up. I can't wait until she's out of the picture. My stomach dropped. My heartbeat sounded like war drums in my ears. I tapped the message, actually praying, it wasn't what I thought. Daniel, soon. I promise. Just a little longer.
Soon.
My marriage wasn't breaking. It had broken. And I hadn't even heard it snap. I stood there frozen. The blue glow of the screen painting my face like a ghost in the dark. There were no exclamation marks, no dirty photos. Just calm, casual treason. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even throw the iPad across the room. I made tea. Because what else do you do when your entire world shifts underneath you like a sinkhole? You grasp at routine. At something, anything, that says you're still in control. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around a steaming mug, and stared at the man I'd built a life with as he came in, kissed me on the forehead, and asked if I wanted pancakes. I said yes. Because I wasn't ready to confront him yet. Not until I knew the full story. And certainly not until I figured out how to end it, not with a scream, but with a bang. I became an observer in my own life. After the iPad incident, everything changed, but not on the outside. I didn't confront him. I didn't storm out. That would have made it real. Instead, I slipped into silence, into strategy. I needed to be smarter than my emotions. So I watched. It's amazing how quickly you begin to notice things when you stop trusting the people around you. Daniel started locking his phone. He'd smile at texts and turn the screen just out of my line of sight. His excuses came a little too prepared. Working late. Conference call ran over. Ava had a rough day. I dropped by with takeout. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Like comforting my best friend was some extension of his love for me. I played the part of the oblivious wife with ease. Smiled. Nodded. Kissed his cheek when he got home. Meanwhile, my mind was cataloging everything. Timestamps, inconsistencies, new colognes, even the changes in his Spotify playlists. He was building a life with her. Right under my roof. And Ava? She didn't miss a beat. Still called me sis. Still invited me to brunch. Brought wine over for movie nights. Asked for my advice about some mystery man she wouldn't name. The performance was Oscar-worthy. And I played right along. because I wasn't ready to stop the show. Not yet. Then came the text that shattered every last illusion. Ava. Dinner Friday? Just us girls. You need a break from Mr. Perfect. Winking face. That emoji, smirking, playful, hit me like a slap. Mr. Perfect. She was toasting herself in my face, pretending to support me while plotting my erasure. I stared at her name on my screen, her message glowing like neon in a dark alley. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That night, I lay next to Daniel and listened to him breathe. So steady, so unaware. I imagined him texting her under the covers when I turned away. I wondered if he'd already imagined the life they'd build without me, the house, the parties, the casual way they'd explain our amicable separation. I didn't cry. Crying would have felt like surrender. Instead, I reached for my laptop. I started digging. iCloud, shared accounts, browser histories. All the breadcrumbs of a man too confident in his lies. It wasn't hard. A few login attempts, a password hint I knew by heart. His mother's birthday. And just like that, the door opened. Dozens of messages. Hundreds of them. Photos. Jokes. Late-night plans. And finally, a calendar invite from Ava herself. Wedding prep meeting. Daniel and me red heart. Wedding. They were getting married. Married. While I was still legally his wife. While they smiled in my face and let me wash the wine glasses after our girls' nights. It should have broken me. It should have made me fall to the floor and scream into the tiles. But instead, I laughed. Because I finally understood something Ava had never figured out. She thought she'd won. She thought I was still in the dark. But what she didn't know is that I'd stopped playing checkers the minute I saw that message on the iPad. And now I was playing chess, with blood in my eyes and the queen still in my hand. I didn't want Daniel back. I wanted them to have each other. But first, I wanted to make sure their happy ending had a plot twist they'd never forget. When I say I became an actress, I don't mean I put on a smile. I mean, I transformed. I wore the right outfits. I laughed at their inside jokes. I nodded through lies I'd already proven false. And every single moment, I was documenting everything, like a scientist studying the final phase of an infection. It was Ava's idea to take me wedding dress shopping. She said it was for a friend. A quick weekend getaway. Just us girls. Champagne, satin, and secretive giggles. You're the only one who gets my taste, she said. I almost choked. She had the audacity to pull me into a boutique, stand on a pedestal in a gown that looked exactly like the one I'd worn 8 years ago, and ask, "Do you think he'll love it?" He. Not the anonymous fiancé. Daniel. I smiled, tilted my head. He'll lose his mind. She twirled. God, she was glowing. Practically levitating in her delusion. She really thought she'd gotten away with it. And, in that moment I knew, she hadn't just stolen my husband. She had stolen my script and cast herself as the leading lady. But I wasn't written out yet. And I was about to rewrite the final act. Once I knew their wedding date, thanks to her accidental mention of a villa in Tuscany and a peek at a planner tucked into her handbag, I made my own appointments. Quietly. Efficiently. Lawyer. Notary. Courier. A custom white envelope with my new initials stamped in crimson wax. Subtle. Elegant. Lethal. But the best detail? The timing. See, most people would want to crash the wedding. Walk down the aisle screaming, tear off veils, make a scene. That would have been Ava's move. Loud. Messy. Public. I wanted precision. I reached out to an old college friend named Elise. She was living in Florence now, working as a travel photographer. She owed me a favor and had a taste for drama. I sent her the guest list I'd managed to lift from Ava's planner. Think you can blend in? I asked. She sent back a photo of herself in a floral dress, camera in hand, grinning. I was born for this. I told her exactly what to do. Wait until the ceremony was over. Let them say their vows. Let them kiss. Let them believe they were truly starting their forever. Then deliver the envelope. Not before. Right after the champagne pops. Elise would tell them it was from someone who couldn't make it, but wanted to honor their love. Inside would be the final, signed, legally filed divorce papers. Effective immediately. Oh, and a note. Just a little touch of poetic cruelty in my handwriting. Congratulations. He's all yours now. No returns. No refunds. The first Mrs. Harper. I imagine it 1,000 times. Ava reading those words in her custom gown, her manicured fingers trembling. Daniel realizing he'd been outmaneuvered, publicly. That everything he'd tried to hide, everything they thought they'd stolen behind closed doors, had been handed back to them in a gift-wrapped explosion. This wasn't revenge for the heartbreak. This was revenge for the insult. Because if you're going to betray someone, at least have the decency not to make her zip up your wedding dress. Tuscany was golden that week. Elise sent photos. Rolling hills. Vineyards draped in sunlight. The villa looked like something out of a magazine. Stone arches, lavender in bloom, a cobbled path leading to a private courtyard where the ceremony would take place. Ava had taste. I'll give her that. She also had confidence. The kind that makes a woman believe she can walk off with someone else's husband, erase the wife like she was a typo, and still get the fairy tale ending. Elise embedded herself into the wedding party with terrifying ease. She arrived early, dressed as a freelance photographer hired to capture behind-the-scenes magic. No one questioned it. Not even Daniel, especially not Daniel. He'd never met her. Ava had once, years ago, but Elise was good at blending in. Smiling, laughing, nodding at the right moments. She snapped photos of white linens, gold-rimmed glasses, petals lining the aisle. And then, she waited. I sat on my balcony that morning, back home, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over a much duller skyline. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't even angry anymore. I felt something close to ready, like a writer who finally gets to type the end. Elise texted me at 2:06 p.m. Italian time. They just kissed. Showtime. She walked calmly up to the new couple as guests applauded. Ava was radiant, arms looped through Daniel's. Her veil fluttered. Someone handed them champagne flutes. Music began to play. And then Elise stepped forward and offered the envelope. It's from someone who couldn't be here, she said sweetly. But she insisted you receive it on your special day. Ava took it with a smile that faltered the moment her fingers touched the wax seal. Crimson. Stamped with the initials AH. My name. Her eyes scanned the papers. Daniel leaned in. Elise told me Ava's mouth moved like she was reading aloud, but no sound came out. Then her expression shattered, like glass dropping from a great height. Daniel grabbed the pages, scanned them, paled. The guests were still clapping, sipping champagne. And the bride and groom were holding the official document that severed their stolen story before the ink on their vows even dried. The final divorce decree. Filed. Stamped. Done. He wasn't cheating anymore. He was just gone. My note was tucked between the legal pages. You were always good at sharing my things. Now you can keep this one. Consider it my wedding gift. Elise walked away before they could react. She didn't need to see the fallout. She had already taken the photo I'd asked for. Ava, in her custom gown, holding the envelope, face frozen mid-horror. Daniel beside her, his world collapsing with the weight of public exposure. It was a portrait of poetic justice. Back home, I posted the photo to my blog. The caption was simple. The day my best friend married my husband, and I gave her everything she thought she wanted. It went viral in 6 hours. And no, I didn't use names. I didn't need to. Their circle knew. The wedding guests knew. Even people who didn't know me messaged to say they'd never clapped harder for someone else's closure. I didn't want pity. I wanted the story to be heard. Because sometimes, the only way to bury betrayal is to make sure the whole world sees who held the shovel. I didn't hear from either of them for 2 days. Not a word. I wasn't sure what to expect. Rage? A heartfelt apology? Desperation in their voices when they finally came to beg for forgiveness? I knew Ava would come for me first. She always had a way of making me feel like the problem was me. The martyr. The one who misunderstood. Instead, my phone stayed silent, buzzing only with notifications of the post's success. Strangers praising my courage, offering their support, even sending condolences to Daniel for losing such a strong woman. I didn't feel vindicated, though. I didn't need anyone else's validation. The only thing I needed was time. Time to watch the ripple spread. To hear the whispers. Then came Ava's call. I let it ring 3 times, each buzz a reminder of her unthinkable betrayal. Her voicemail was a war zone of emotions. She was breaking down, furious, heartbroken, and somehow, still, betrayed by me. What the hell is wrong with you? This isn't funny. You've ruined everything. I thought we were still friends, but I guess I was wrong about that. She thought I owed her an explanation? After everything? I could practically hear her frantic breaths through the phone, her usual control slipping as she fumbled with her words. But I wasn't listening. I was smiling just a little because the best part was yet to come. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled up Daniel's name in my contacts. I thought I might leave him a message. Something witty. Something cutting. But the truth was, I didn't need to speak to him anymore. He wasn't going to apologize. He wasn't going to beg. No, he'd already made his bed. He was going to lie in it. And I wasn't the one who'd have to watch. His message came late that night. He didn't call. Instead, he texted. Short, cold, distant. You're cruel. Full? I laughed out loud, but it wasn't out of anger. It was out of sheer disbelief. I wasn't cruel. Cruel would have been showing up to the wedding with a megaphone, ready to air all their dirty laundry. Cruel would have been showing up to watch them say their vows, knowing that every word they spoke was a lie. Cruel would have been filming the entire thing and sending it to the tabloids. But I didn't do that. I sent the divorce papers. I gave them exactly what they deserved. Clean. Final. Quiet. I wasn't cruel. I was just honest. I didn't even reply to Daniel's text. I didn't need to. The silence between us, between them, spoke louder than anything I could ever say. I spent the next couple of days at a spa in the mountains. No phone calls. No texts. No emails. Just quiet. Just the kind of silence I hadn't known I needed until I found it. Ava called again. Then Daniel. I didn't pick up. I didn't need to. What could they possibly say? What could they say that would undo what they'd done? What they'd taken from me? For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset. I wasn't broken. I was liberated. I was also more than a little curious. How long would it take for them to crumble? How long before their shiny little perfect world came crashing down? They were going to have to explain the divorce papers. The media would have questions. Family would have questions. Friends would have questions. And no matter how much they pretended, no matter how hard they tried to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, I knew the truth was out there. And I wasn't the one holding the shovel anymore. They were. I was done. But oh, I was enjoying the show. It all came crashing down sooner than I expected. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for their fairy tale to shatter. The first sign came through a tabloid headline. Bride left at the altar. What really happened at Daniel Harper's wedding? I sat at my kitchen counter, my coffee cooling as I scrolled through the article. The piece was half sensationalized gossip and half truth. The truth? That Ava had been hiding something. The sensational part? How they spun the story, twisting it into a desperate narrative about an ex-wife seeking revenge. I didn't care about the details. I already knew how this would unfold. Everyone would ask questions. They'd ask why they hadn't told anyone about the divorce. Why it had been so sudden. Why Daniel had been so adamant that he was still in love with me until he wasn't. Why Ava hadn't been upfront about their relationship. And, of course, there was the fact that Ava and Daniel had never actually been legally married. They didn't even get to the altar. The morning after the tabloid came out, I received a call from Elise. She sounded concerned. You're gonna want to see this. I watched the news clip she sent me, still in my robe. There was Ava, standing in front of the villa where the wedding was supposed to have happened. Her makeup was smeared, her gown hanging awkwardly from her frame as she tried to hold back tears. Daniel was nowhere to be found. The reporter was polite, professional, but I could tell there was a glint of disbelief in her voice when she asked Ava, "What went wrong?" Ava stuttered. then said something about a miscommunication with the venue. But the camera lingered on her haunted, empty eyes. And for the first time, I saw it. The mask had slipped. She wasn't the confident, charming woman who'd stolen everything from me. She was just a girl caught in the wreckage of her own lies. Meanwhile, Daniel was spiraling. It took only hours for social media to catch fire. The posts, tweets, and memes flooded the internet. People began piecing things together. A quick Google search revealed that he'd been married before, a divorce, and that there had been sudden changes in his relationship with his ex-wife. Some articles even mentioned the mysterious wedding papers, signed, official, and delivered in front of everyone. By the time Daniel called me, I was already packing a suitcase for a weekend getaway. He didn't even sound like the man I'd known. He sounded desperate, pleading for a second chance, for me to come back, for me to fix things. "I never meant to hurt you, Emma," his voice cracked. I never wanted to lose you. I thought this was what I needed." "Stop," I interrupted. "You don't get to rewrite the past." "I made a mistake," he continued, but the words were hollow. I felt the urge to yell at him, to scream how much he'd betrayed me, how much they'd both stolen from me. But I didn't. I wasn't angry anymore. The anger had long faded. All that was left was this cold, piercing truth. "You've already lost me," I said. "You lost me the moment you thought I'd stay while you tore apart everything we had, just for the illusion of happiness." There was silence. He didn't respond. And for the first time, I didn't need him to. A few weeks later, the dust had settled. Ava had quietly left town, likely to recharge or find herself, according to the rumor mill. Daniel stayed behind, but his reputation was ruined. The divorce papers hung over him like a shadow. He tried to salvage what he could with a few half-hearted apologies, but it was too late. The truth had already spread. Too many people had seen through the fake smiles, the excuses, the story he'd so carefully crafted. I didn't watch his downfall with satisfaction. I watched with a sense of finality, of peace. Because nothing about what happened was about winning. It was about knowing when to let go. Ava and Daniel were two people who couldn't see the truth until it was staring them in the face, until it slapped them so hard they couldn't deny it anymore. They tried to build their happiness on lies, and when they ran out of ways to lie to themselves, the whole thing collapsed. But I never needed to lie to myself. I knew who I was. I knew what I deserved. And I wasn't about to let anyone, especially someone who'd once been my best friend, take that from me. As I sat on my balcony, sipping a fresh cup of coffee, I felt the weight of the past few months lift from my shoulders. I had won, not because of the spectacle, not because of the mess they'd made, but because I had walked away. I had survived. And that, in the end, was all I needed.